This is a message to all my supporters of this podcast. I'm introducing a new supporters program. You can contribute a small amount as a one-off payment to show your love for this podcast. Thank you in advance for all your contributions.
Hi, this is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast. I am creator and host Mark Hayward. I am a corporate employee with an entrepreneurial mindset. This podcast will help support you with new business ideas. These are my thoughts, ideas, and comments. Today's podcast is about why you should leave your job. Hi everyone, this is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast. I'm Mark Hayward, and today's subject is going to be about why you would leave your job or your career. This is inspired by a previous podcast and YouTube video which has about why I made a big decision to move from one corporate environment to another. This is just sort of giving you, because I'm sure there's people that are unhappy, and we'll cover all these points, that are unhappy in their job or their career. And there's various reasons why that is. So I want to just flag some of those things, because I've seen people work at a company for 26 years, and she ended up not being very happy and just waiting for the redundancy package to come. And I think that's a really sad way of living your life. So equally, there were certain reasons why I left, which I've covered in that previous podcast. Please flip back. It's about 3 or 4 podcasts before about the big reveal. So check that out if you want to hear some of the decision making that I did then. But this is just really for you to sort of, there must be someone that's listening to this thinking, I'd really like to do something different, or be in another job, or do something slightly different in my life. So this is one thing that you can control. So you can resign, you can hand in your notice, you can leave. So I just want to really empower people with this video. I want you to think about whether you're happy in your role, and some of the reasons why you might not be happy. So I'm going to cover this in a number of points today. And again, just any feedback you'd like to give me on the podcast or the YouTube video, then by all means leave them in the respective places. Okay, so the first one on my list is you don't enjoy your job. So as I was saying about this woman of 26 years, she started to not enjoy her job. And that was very sad to see someone that obviously had enjoyed their job and found a lot of reward and a lot of benefit and sort of it gave her confidence. You could see that confidence slowly slipping away and ebbing away. And if you don't enjoy your job, you should really leave. There is no reason in this world where there are businesses, there are investors, there are entrepreneurs, there's freelancers, there's corporate, there's charities, there's government, there's so many different types of work and job that if you don't enjoy what you do, yes, you could make a small change and move to another company similar size to you, but equally, if you desperately don't like what you're doing anymore and there's something fundamentally wrong about it, then there are loads of different ways that you can be able to do something different and be someone different by leaving that job. So big factor. There are so many people that don't enjoy their job, that live for the weekend, and it drives me mad. I just want you to listen to this, and if you don't enjoy your job, don't just live for the weekends, don't just live for the evenings and going out and partying with your friends or whatever. Do something positive and find something that you love to do. Okay, so that's just a plea for a number of people that are listening to this that don't enjoy their job. So please think about that. Equally, for larger organisations, I've got a second point, which is that you don't agree with the company's values or beliefs. That could be all the way to you're not big on capitalism, you don't want to work for a profit-making company. Equally, that might be that the company doesn't give a lot of money to charity or charitable give charitable gifts, and that's important to you. Equally, it could be broken down into there's certain, every large corporation has their values and their beliefs and what their company believes in. There could be fundamental reasons why you just don't like the company you work for. So think about that. I think you do need to think about the values of the company and whether they match yours. It's not something. Excuse me. That's not something that a lot of people think about, the values of the company, but I think they should match yours. So think about that. Equally, if you're in a role, this is probably for someone who's moved relatively recently, and your skills don't suit the role. So, what can we say? What about something like a project manager? And you go in and you're a project manager, and you don't like people, you don't like processes. What you actually really want to be is maybe someone techie, and you want to code. So therefore, you do need to think to yourself about the skills that you have, the experiences that you have, and how they fit that role, the role and responsibilities that have been given for the job. Clear signs of this are job descriptions if you're moving to another company or slightly moving over. You do need to think about whether your skills, your experience, what you like doing, suit the role that you're moving to. Next point. This is something which I know someone fairly recently has shared with me that when they went in for an interview, the role that they were offered and what was portrayed to them. And actually, this has happened twice. Two people of separate people have given me this example. Is they were offered a role which is A, which might be size of business, size of market. It could be the role is going to be more managerial or something like that. And something that you were offered, you end up getting to the day job and doing it every day, and it's not what they promised you. That's if you've just started a role. That's really a key definer, and I would say that you should really think about that, and not really necessarily stick with it, because people respect you if you don't accept what you weren't offered or weren't promised. So this happened twice in my knowledge, and both people left quite quickly, and that that sort of left everyone, well, you know what, we understand why he did this, why he's doing this, and we respect him for that, and he can go. So I think that's an important point. If you're just starting a role and you're really not happy straight away, there might be a real reason for that, and then you might think that maybe I should leave. The other thing is, a bit of advice was given to me quite some time ago that you should spend 5 years in a role /job /career, and it seems to be the average of when people leave. And so if you've been in a role for more than 5 years, you might be a lifer. That's what they called them in my company. You might want to stay in the same company and be with them for the rest of your career. If that's the case, full respect. That's your decision, and that's what you want to do. But on average, 5 years is about long enough. So 5 years is long enough for you to embed yourself in the team, make progress, make an impact, work with the people, develop a network, and sort of prove yourself. Anything over 5 years, you start moving into that sort of lifer, and you start getting into the point where you've been there a long time. And now big corporates, people do hang around a long time. But equally, freshness also. I think a good reason to leave is to have a refresh, have a start again, new people, new network, build your network. The thing is about staying in the same company for 20, 30 years is that your network is very, very small. Obviously, people will leave your company and you might stay in contact with them, but working with someone is a very good way of being able to create a bond, a connection, and if you need help from them at a later stage, that's helpful. So networking has an advantage if you do move around a little bit. The other two things are regarding your boss. So I've got here, you don't respect your boss or you don't like your boss. So let's just cover the like your boss. So you got to like your boss to an extent. Reason to like them is because you need to get friends with them, or at least get to an agreement with them on how you're going to act. And if you don't like your boss, you could be in problems, because in theory, if you make a logical progression, you might turn into your boss. And if you don't like your boss, then that could be problematic for you. So I would say think about that. If you're sitting there, if you're sitting here, or you're in the gym or traveling, and you're listening to this or driving, and you're like, I don't like my boss. I don't think I want to be him, because that is always a logical progression. So always think about that. And the other thing the second point about your boss is you don't respect your boss. You've got to be able to work with that person. You've got to take instructions from that person. You've got to build a bond, a respect between both of you. So if you don't respect him, that's a problem as well. So there's two things about your boss that you should really consider and should really think about. If you don't like them or respect them, then maybe it might be an internal move. It doesn't always have to be a new company, but you should really consider that if your boss is not to your liking. Something else that happened to a colleague of mine or a friend of mine was the company was in decline. So sometimes a business, a team, a market, an industry is in decline. So that if it's a market or industry, then anywhere else in the same sort of experiences will be having the shared experience. If it's a team that's in decline, and then I think that's something that needs to be considered, especially if you're manager level or above, because you're then managing the team. You're involved in management of the team, or you should be if you're manager or above. You should be involved in building and shaping a team. So if the company or team is in decline, it might be time to jump ship and move to somewhere else. The next point I want to talk about is if you don't like your colleagues, so moves on from your boss and now onto your colleagues, you spend more time with your work colleagues than you do with your family. Fact. Everyone should know that, but that's a fact. And therefore, if you don't get on with them, if you don't want to socialise with them, if you don't want to build a connection with these people, and I've talked a couple of times about connection with people and businesses and things, and I think that's my business is all about relationships, and I think a lot of people's business is all about relationships, whether that's internally within your company or if you're servicing clients, then it's building relationship with your clients and building relationships with your colleagues. So you might want to go for a beer with them. You might not. But you must be able to have a good conversation, share some bits about yourself with your colleagues, and that builds a nicer, better relationship and atmosphere if you share a little bit of yourself with your work colleagues. So if you're sitting there and you're thinking, oh, I don't want to socialise with them, I hardly say anything to anyone all day unless someone asks me something, well, that's a telltale sign for that you're that maybe the company, the team is not a good fit for you, because you don't want anything to do with your colleagues. And in my last podcast, I talked about the best things that make me happy are salary, colleagues, and the role. And I think that's absolutely critical. And that might, any of those three might be a reason that you want to leave as well. So if the salary's not up to, which I'll cover in a little bit, if the colleagues are not good, or the role and responsibility is not what you expected, which I've covered before. So there is continuity in my thought, and those three things as a career and a job is critical, and therefore you should be looking for those things to have an impact.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hi, I'm Alex, the host of X Health Show. Meet the future of healthcare. Think X-Men, that's X Health. Actual superheroes behind programming living cells to cure cancer once and for all. Tech that detects preterm delivery in seconds, brain-computer interface, or apps that employ AI to match you, your disease, with the best treatment. X Health Show brings to you visionaries who push the boundaries of healthcare from Switzerland, the heart of Europe and the most innovative country in the world. Let me introduce you to their startups. Head to X Health Show, meet the future of healthcare. Happy to greet you there.
Now, you haven't, so another reason might be you haven't had a salary increase or a promotion. Now, varying degrees. So in the corporate environment, there is a steady and environment that you go up the ladder. In some jobs, that's very difficult. There might not be a salary rise because the company is going through some problems. Equally, when we were going through the 2008-2009 recession, depression, there was very little salary rise. And therefore there was a lot of people who were upset by the lack of salary rise. Now that's an international thing, so I would say that's unreasonable. But we're in an atmosphere with some uncertainty with Brexit, but equally there are some positives in the economy, so you should be expecting a modest salary rise. The whole point of against promotion. So if you're in a corporate career, you should expect to be promoted. Fast is probably 2 years each grade. You can, in earlier grades, go up by 1 year. The more senior you get, the harder it gets, obviously. But you should be thinking, if you're not getting promoted because there's a blocker, or because there's it could be a blocker is another person. It could be your face might not fit, I suppose, once you get to a point. So if you've not been promoted for 5 years, maybe you should think about leaving. And the other reason why you might want to leave is if your company is a smallish size company and you're not able to get a promotion because there's 15 people in the business and they only need 15 and there's no career progression, then you might want to leave. You might need to leave to get that promotion. So that might be moving sideways, that might be moving up. So it is important for you to think about the sort of promotion route for you and how fast you want to progress in that career. Some people want to be a career manager, partner, CEO. Some people just want to get a salary and then live on the salary. I think you should be flexible and be realistic about what you actually want to achieve. So equally, this might be people earlier on in their careers. So if you've just left university or even school, and it could be flipped both ways. So you join a startup and actually you don't like it, you'd like a corporate career, or you're in a corporate environment and you want to go into a more entrepreneurial startup environment. That's equally understandable and a good reason why you should leave. Many people that have been at my company that got to a point, and some people have gone and worked for charities, some people have gone travelling for a long time, some people have set businesses up. So in a corporate environment, there's lots of opportunities. But equally, if you finally find that you want something slightly different, might become a teacher, for example, there are good reasons why you should leave that particular industry sector. So I would say think about that as well. So that, coming on to my next point, which is you're in the wrong sector or industry. So it might be you're in pharmaceuticals and you have a moral reason against testing on animals. It might be that. It might be banking, and you don't want to be part of the banking system and the capitalist world. So I would say that's for you guys that are earlier on in your career. You should be thinking about your sector and your industry and whether it fits your values. So when right at the start we were talking about values and beliefs of the company, they should match yours. So that's a nice loop right from the start. You really should think about what that company believes in, and they should match your beliefs. And then last point is there's no development opportunities, so no courses, whether they're online or face-to-face courses, or you can't, like, when I first started in my corporate, there were courses online and face-to-face courses that you could get on, and you'd get budget. After 08, 09, then a lot of courses came online rather than face-to-face, and then even less of them, and you're expected to build your skills and experience from learning on the job. So there's been a lot of that in corporate worlds now. Less development opportunities than there were before, and less courses, and expected to learn on the job. So that's the reasons why you should leave. Maybe I'll do a podcast soon on why you should stay. It doesn't feel very topical at the moment with my reveal that I'm leaving my company. So there we go. That's today's podcast. I've got a couple of things that I want to just a couple of bits of business at the end of the podcast. I just want to do a big shout out to Florida Men on Florida Man podcast for the great feedback that they provided on iTunes. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'd like you, if you've enjoyed this, if you liked what you heard, or you've gone through it and you've listened to some of the other ones, I want you to tell a friend, a family member, or a colleague about my podcast. Let's get the message out there. There's lots of podcasts now. There's over 70 that I've got. So I would welcome you if you could tell one person this week. Something that a couple of people have asked me is when's the next interview after my interview with Andy Arter. Successful one, I'd like to say. Now, I'm trying to get one for the end of April. Trying to arrange details at the moment. So hopefully we'll get someone at the end of April or maybe early May, depending on when the Sunday comes. So look out for that. Hopefully that'll all go through. And I just want you to do one other thing. So if you're listening to this podcast and you've enjoyed the podcast and enjoyed my messages, my thoughts, ideas, and my comments, please check it out on YouTube. So for the last dozen or so, maybe a little bit more, I've been recording these. You can see me here. I'm waving. If you can see me on YouTube, if not on podcast, you'll wonder why I was waving. Check the videos out. So I'm trying to do these so you can see me. You can see my atmosphere, the environment that I'm in. When I'm meeting people, you can see the interaction I've got with people. So please do check it out on YouTube. I'd love to boost some of my numbers on there. That would be fantastic. Lots of links and lots of places where you can see that. And there are a number of videos, and then I've got a number of podcasts which are recorded on there as well. And just at the start, if you go back a long time, you then see my 2-3 minute videos that I was doing to sort of inspired me to do the podcast and the YouTube. Last thing, just Instagram and Twitter. Check me out. It would be great if you could join me on Instagram and Twitter. But that is it. Thank you very much. This is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast, and I thank you.